Hello, and welcome to another episode of Peaceful Prisons Podcast. My name is Baylen Parada. With me is Abby Martin. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. Good to have you on again. And our guest today, very honored to have you on. I'm looking forward to this talk. Phillip Jenkins, very nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and give us a little background.
I'm just going to, firstly, before I start, I would like to acknowledge the true custodians of this land, to their elders past and present and emerging. I pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people because I'm coming to you from Gadigal land of the Eora Nation, and this land was never ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Thank you.
So I am currently studying my bachelor degree at the University of New South Wales. Formerly incarcerated, spent probably I'm actually still on an ICO order at the moment for another year. But yeah, I've been in and out of custody for the last 11 years. And I guess just probably in the last couple of years found my sort of groove, I should say, by running into sort of finding other people, sort of like-minded lived experience, people that sort of wanted to advocate in the space of just the things I think we've been through. So that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking
Pleasure.
with us today. We wanted to speak with you a little bit, get your thoughts, get your experiences around the topic of incarcerated people with disabilities, and what that looks like, what that means, and how that relates to you and your country. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got incarcerated and what it's like being locked up as with disabilities.
I identify as having a disability. I have ADHD, which in Australia is considered a disability. Going into custody was denied. It took like a year of asking for my medication. Like every time I've been denied my medication. In Australia, we actually have laws and legislation in place and policies, procedures where it's actually corrective services it's their responsibility to make sure that they maintain your medical standards of practice, like medical practices you do in the community. And I was denied the entire time. I was denied my medication, and it's sort of basically, I think I came out with anxiety as well, which is kind of goes hand in hand with the ADHD now, because and I think that's probably exacerbated probably from. No, it wasn't. It was exacerbated from the fact that I was like just constantly in a state of not knowing, always sort of scared or anxious or afraid to say the wrong thing to people because I didn't have that medication that I knew sort of kept me a bit more calm and not as sort of towing the line all the time. Yeah, it was it's not nice. It's people with disabilities that in like Australian prisons, there's 50% of people in prison have a disability. The treatment has actually been like aligned with like what the United Nations like Convention of Human Rights and discrimination says. It's like, is that they're actually suffering cruel, inhumane and degrading treatment. And yeah, it's something something's got to give, because it's we're talking about like it does. It's not just borders on torture. It's torture. This is what is happening to some of the people in there. Definitely, definitely.
Well,
Well, it's definitely inhumane.
you mentioned saying the wrong thing in prison, and here in the States, you say the wrong thing in prison, that could lead to bodily harm. That could lead to more consequences than not. And and how does anxiety and somewhat kind of chaotic brain patterns and thinking, either like quick speaking or quick acting, lead to your stay then, your comfort, your safety?
Well, that's what was, I think, probably had me in a state of anxiety all the time, is because I say what I see, and if I'm sort of a
Yeah.
little bit ahead of myself and I realise I've said something, yeah. But I just and it's very much like that here in Australia. Like it's if you whistle at someone, you're calling them a dog, and if you're calling them a dog, it's on. And if you don't, but if you
Yeah.
don't fight, well, then you are a dog. So it's like it's very volatile. But only by luck, I think the only thing is that I just had such a big beard in jail that a lot of people thought that I might look like that what's his name, the UFC fighter Scotty McGregor.
Oh yeah.
Sort of gave off that I was a bit, maybe I looked like a little bit of a firecracker, like I might sort of go off, but I
Yeah.
was just sitting and reading books by myself like a lot of the time. or reading the same line over and over and over again and still not understanding what I read. Yeah, no, it's just having a state of anxiety, like constantly. I was always worried about offending or is worried, that and the intersections of homosexuality, like being gay in jail as well. That was also another thing that sort of had me constantly worried. But mostly just the fact that I was denied my medication, I just don't think is right. It's not okay. It's like, I mean, we're talking about like even like, I know a girl that I launched a report with just recently for cruel, inhumane and degrading treatment of people with disabilities in detention. That was done with some researchers as well as some really big organisations here in Australia that are also like trying to help in that prison space. She personally had been denied like sanitary products. I mean, or if you want to, like people with disabilities, if they want to use a razor, they've got to have a guard stand there while they're naked in the shower, like using it. Like, what's that? Like, they're not suicidal. They're not suicidal.
Yeah.
Like, it's appalling. Or blind men that are coming in and having their guiding their what is it, their stick,
Yeah.
what's it called? They're having their
cane,
stick
yeah.
in their property and told that they can have it back once they leave. It's like some of them are doing like 2 or 3 years or longer. Or, it's you've got guys that usually have hearing aids, but they got arrested and the hearing aids weren't in their ears at the time, so that like they can't do them the courtesy of just maybe we're talking about men in their 80s and 90s and stuff that could be facing historic things, and I don't care what they're facing. It's still at the end of the day. To be in an environment like that and not be able to hear, like it would just make it, well, as it did without medication, like just that more scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems very traumatizing. And it
Totally
seems like
traumatizing.
another
Like
way. It seems like another way.
What? Like I think everyone that goes to prison, I don't care how tough they are or what they say they are and how many fights they've had and won, everyone comes out traumatized. Because everyone has fear in them somehow. Like everyone comes out traumatized, and I think that's probably the worst thing about it is that the people that are going to prison, or especially like with domestic violence, it's like you want them to like not be violent, so you send them to the most violent place on earth. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like it's just and they just get better and angrier.
Right.
It's just something, and it's something we need to start dealing. I think with the trauma of people that come out of jail is what is actually affects these kind of things, I think.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like, I guess, for you on a daily basis in there during your time dealing with the trauma? Would you get any sort of aid or help from the guards, from the officers? Would they kind of accommodate, or would you brushed
really.
aside?
I experienced horrific things that just being a homosexual alone was enough for people to treat you with disdain and disrespect sexually. Like the amount of times I got whacked on the ass in the shower, or guys coming up and like rubbing themselves naked on me, like thinking that was okay, like think it's permissible because I'm homosexual and that I must want it. It was disgusting. It was just like but no, I just had to laugh it off like it was funny, like because I guess if I wasn't laughing with them, then I was against them. So you just got like it's a. I did actually report that to guards at one point because I don't care what anyone says about that. It's like it's my body, my choice. Like you're not gonna.
Right.
It was horrendous. Someone's sort of couldn't take it.
And how was your report?
The last couple of years? Sorry.
How was your report received when you reported that to guards? Did they respond favorably?
Look, at that prison, they ran a pretty tight ship, and I've got to say, like, for as shit as jail is, like, they actually ran it so that they were fair. They treated everyone the same in a way, so they took it serious. There was another prison that happened at it like a year earlier, but it was a little worse than that, where someone actually like assaulted me. But I reported that for 2 weeks, and they left me in the cell with him and didn't do anything about it.
Wow.
So for 2 weeks, you had to be in the cell with him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, horrendous. Yeah.
That is.
What about?
They separated. They took them out. They pulled me out. They got me a psychologist. Like that. They were good. They were good. But
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you get psychologist treatment? Nurses come and check on you and see?
I got to say, the psychologists in there are like, I think they're traumatized too. They're not doing a service like much of the service. Like they're seeing horrendous things. They're seeing it's all. Yeah, I mean, we don't choose to go there. They choose to go there every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
how
sure
did
you've seen some mistreatment and some abuse, and it's been difficult,
Yeah,
across the
but
board.
look, doing this now and being at uni and study, it's kind of funny because I guess I'm learning why I've ended up there and what kind of
Mm,
yeah.
what kind of factors led me there,
yeah.
and that can be really confronting. But I don't know. I look back on all of it and all the treatment and everything like that. I'm not angry at anyone. I don't hold it against them, and actually just. I probably know that they've come from a tougher background than I have, and that's probably all they know, and they just need help. They need to,
Yeah.
no one acts like, no one commits like an evil act. No one is inherently really bad. It's just what we're taught. It's what is imprinted on us as kids. That's all it is. It's
Mm,
just, and then, it's like racism. It's a social construct. And I think if you can construct something, then you can deconstruct it. Yeah.
mm. It's very wise, very kind of you. Um,
Yeah.
And
Well,
healed.
I
It
try.
seems like you've come to a place of not only healing yourself with this understanding, but then being able to heal others and help others from this.
It's cost a lot of money. Yeah, do you know what? I have, I did, I've been doing EMDR therapy for the last year. Very
Nice.
controversial. A lot of people don't agree with it. It's the one where they make you follow their finger and
Yeah.
basically teaches you your little pathways to get in touch with your prefrontal cortex, your decision maker, which
Okay.
I wasn't making good decisions previously, obviously. So it's been life changing. It's been like really life changing. It has, I have to say.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Hmm.
amazing.
And
So how did
and you mentioned you've been doing. Go ahead, Abby.
how did you get into that therapy? Was that a service that somebody suggested to you, or
So
was this independent research?
what made me do that? I got out of jail, and actually, I met my husband, and we got married like after like knowing each other for 3 months, and then we started. I never really considered it. Then we started talking about children,
Uh-huh.
and so we started to like look for a surrogate, and I was like, hang on, I'm from like a really violent past. Like I've had like there's been child abuse, like as in violent
Yeah.
parents. And I was like, no, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because I'm studying criminology. It was like I started learning about social learning theory, and I started learning about the cycle of violence. And I'm like, well, this like
Yeah.
what if you don't choose this? It's like what if my response to a naughty kid is smack him on the bum or like. And I don't want that. I don't want my child coming. I want my child to have the best opportunities possible and to have grounded, calm, and guiding parents, not parents like mine. So that's what sort of, I guess, initiated it because I saw the different therapies that are available. I've done cognitive before. It's just like I can sleep through it. So
Mm.
EMDR looked like people were saying it was controversial. I'm like, that sounds like me.
I'm in.
And then yeah, it's been good. It's pretty yeah. It blows me away actually because you sit on a trauma for like one session and it goes away. It's like, well, should have
Huh.
seen you about 30 years ago.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been doing some work with legislation and trying to help people that are still going through this. What kind of work have you been doing these days?
So at the moment, I'm actually working like on a collaboration with a few organisations. So one is the Justice Project. It's with there's also Justice Reform Initiative and with the Churchill Fellow Patrick McGee, as well as professors from my university. And I'm on with collaborating with them as a lived experience with disability in prison. And they're working like on a national report card so that that just as agencies like sort of and institutions can be held a little bit more to account, or there can be this card that goes with if someone has to go into custody, like this conventions that were made in Australia like not that long ago that people they try to avoid having people with disabilities go into custody like altogether, but it's
Mm.
Australia and the police do whatever they want. So. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that should be followed or were recommended, but I don't know if you've ever heard about royal commissions in Australia. They're these
Mm.
really
No.
expensive investigations that we have when like there's sort of things that need public attention or there's been injustices that needs to be like looked over with a microscope. And
Mm.
we basically get like, for instance, like Aboriginal deaths in custody. It was like a huge thing 30 years ago, 330 recommendations. They didn't implement any of them. 30 years later, we've got twice as many Aboriginals that are dying in custody in Australian prisons. It's horrific. And then the worst is that juvenile prisons is full of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth, and it's like they account for like 3% of our population, yet 33% of our jail population. It's horrific. It's horrific. It's like it's not great. So, I'm working on that sort of project, sort of research point at the moment, like trying to get money basically to get that off the ground, which will be interesting. But that runs off the back of a report that was done on some people in Western Australia and Northern Territory. The gentleman that was Malcolm, his name was held on in custody for 15 years, and at the end of his sentence was just left there indefinitely. And funnily enough, only 2 years ago, or no, was it 2 years ago? I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, they got someone to come in and translate. Malcolm speaks an Aboriginal language, and they only just in the last 3 years, out of like 20 something years, got him a translator, and his moods changed completely. He stopped being violent. He stopped being exactly. I know. I was looking at me like, what? He's like, yeah. It's like, why wouldn't you do this? Why would you do this 25 years ago so someone could communicate with you?
Right.
Okay, it's not even like it's just silly, really. It's mindless. It's some very mindless things that happen. But that's what happens when people go to prison. They think that because you're in prison that you just all of a sudden you don't have any rights. And it's like, you taking away my rights, it doesn't make you any better either. You're breaking the law because I broke the law. That doesn't work. It's like, it's just interesting what happens, I think, to people when they're given power, and power, I don't know, it's just how they justify, I think, treating people this way, or or just cutting corners or being lazy. It's when people's lives are at stake.
Yeah. And I was going to ask also, it almost sounds like there's a misrecognition or a misdiagnosis from the police officers, or maybe it's in the courts. I'm not sure. Maybe but maybe they're not recognizing when someone has a disability, or they're having some cognitive dysfunction, and they just automatically assume it's crime, it's criminal, and they need to be locked away. Is that your experience? Is that what you see?
I think that with probably more of a touch of white privilege, and they just don't care. As long as it's so we've got tall poppy syndrome in Australia. As long as it's not you and someone looks worse off than you, you're good.
I think that might be everywhere. Everywhere, as long as
it is.
That makes you feel better then. Stay here. So look, I think a lot of the time, so a lot of people that end up in the prison system, they don't even know that there is mental health, and that could be like a cause for it, but might not declare it because they haven't been diagnosed. So a lot of them, it's quite a big percentage of people that go into custody and end up getting a diagnosis in there for the first time. I know I did. So I was like, I danced for 20 years before I just sort of ran into to the justice system, but I used to be told that I was really passionate and hardworking, but now I'm like, after I stopped dancing, I'm told I'm like manic and whatever else. I only discovered that I had mental health like a little later on, and I think a lot of people do in custody, whereas that's to our police training. The police need to be trained. Like the police shouldn't be going to like a 6-week camp, 10 weeks or something like that. Like, especially with what they're dealing with, and them themselves. Like, I think like most of them are dealing. I think like a huge percentage of them experience post-traumatic stress. The people that are policing our streets, they should be policing our streets if they've got post-traumatic stress. They'd be like fatigue and like short-tempered, and alcohol and drug abuse, and there's just a lot of things that go with PTSD. So it's just like, these are people that are keeping our community safe. And I just think, and I'm not having a go at them, I'm not saying to them, it's like, I'm actually saying this out of a caring place, like, hey dude, go and get checked, go and there's nothing wrong with it. But I think the culture of the police is very much, it's a very toxic, masculine, sort of hegemonic sort of place to be working. So I don't think anyone reaches up their hand and says, hey bro, I'm feeling like shit, or they definitely...
Well, and I think in America, at least, I think the understanding is that while the residents of a facility and the staff are experiencing the same thing, because you're staff, you're not allowed to, or you're not, it's not acceptable to experience what you just experienced. Where both parties are experiencing it. Either you're watching it, you're contributing to it. Either way,
yeah, true.
Only one you can talk about.
Yeah, true. because the other one's got to be professional. Yet you've just experienced the same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right.
that's not professionalism. That's like, yeah, right. It's a really great point,
Or
actually. It's a really great point.
or not even, I mean, yeah, being professional, but also like while you're getting a paycheck, like while you're paid to do
Right.
this, like, just do it. Like you
Yeah,
don't get
but
to have
Right.
yeah,
feelings about it because you're collecting a paycheck.
just asking you to be
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. All you have to do is ask,
Exactly.
yeah, yes, yes,
My New
Yeah.
Year's resolution last year was like, I got up, I was like, no, New Year's resolution is like, be nice. Like, that's
Hmm.
very broad. I'm like, but it's hard. No, it's
it
not.
It
is
is.
hard.
It
Every
is.
day it's hard,
No.
Mm.
and
I
to
just
go
think,
above and beyond.
I just really think that. But here's the silver lining, I think. So I've got this. We actually had like recently had to come up with an idea at university about what you would do to better the lives and stop the incarceration rate of Aboriginals in Australia. And I said that we should start yarning circles for the police, that they have to go to these
Mm.
communities of Aboriginals and have the circles that they have and sort out their problems together.
Hmm.
But I also said that if they did this, that like they should have like 3 years of actual professional training, but give them like a huge pay rise, because I do think that the work is really like it's some pretty, but still, like we need people
Yeah.
that are educated. When a lot of the time they're dealing with people that are either have disability or have mental health. The police aren't. I don't. A lot of them aren't equipped for that, and it's not their fault.
Hmm.
Not like, but still, I just think that there should be more accountability for who's sitting at the top and who's facilitating these jobs out to people. I just think that yeah. If they're the percentages we're getting from prison with people with disabilities and mental health, then we need people on the front line that are prepared to and able to deal with that. Because I think a lot of people could be diverted away from the criminal justice system instead. Don't get me started about drugs and that being a healthcare problem rather than a justice problem. So much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and so you had mentioned
Right.
earlier finding out the factors of why somebody is committing crimes and tackling that versus just the crime itself. Where do you think
Hmm.
we are in the world and in our individual countries in shifting gears that way?
It comes down to your welfare systems and us being. I think we're a long way away from it. Like it's I don't know. The further I read into my studies and the more I look into research, that I get a bit not traumatized. I get a bit shocked at how we need racism is huge, right? It's so big. Like the opportunities that are not available for, I think, if you're not like white, and I think also that quota of not a quota because you have to, just having women in places of power as well, and having I think we're unfortunately a long way off that, and I'm not being a pessimist. That's just the way that things are, and until that changes, until we start with equality, I think yeah, like the little things,
Hmm.
because crime's not committed out of people being bad people. Like a lot of people are actually committing crime because they're trying to survive.
Right.
What are
Absolutely.
you going to do? What are you going to do when you've got 4 mouths to feed? What are you going to do when you've got 4 mouths to feed and no money? All right, well,
Hmm.
let's all just sit here and eat air for the night. No, of course you can't. Man, I would go out and I would steal a chicken from anywhere. I would do anything I could
Hmm.
do to, like, feed kids. Like, I don't think
Right.
yeah. It's people being punished for things like that or fines or statistics say that crime's going down. Like this, you're not having the kind of break and enters or robberies that we used to because of surveillance. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of factors that are changing. The one thing that I do know is certain is that prison is criminogenic. That's the one thing that I do
Yeah.
know is that it
Hmm.
creates crime. That's all it does.
Hmm.
That's all it does. All it did for me. I went in and I found better networks, better drugs,
Yeah.
better connections. Came out with more. People go into prison come out with drug addictions. They go in there violent. They come out more violent. There's nothing about the system that is doing any benefit for anyone because there's no rehabilitation in there. There's no rehabilitation whatsoever. It's
That's not strictly an Australian system
no, I
deficiency.
know.
That it
That's
happens
what we
in
should.
America. It
Yeah,
happens all over the world, really. You know.
except Norway.
Yeah, except Norway. They're on
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you
So
when you were in
go ahead.
prison with a disability, how we had talked about being, maybe you would say and do things that were not always like super well thought out that could get you in trouble. But how did that lead to your ability to form relationships and connections for your just your own well-being? I mean, everybody needs friends, everybody needs connections. How did that affect that?
I was in prison, so like the funny thing was I sat there and I read a lot of books, but I didn't really, I wasn't reading. I was just trying to distract myself or people from thinking that I was not busy. But I did find that, you know, it's no matter what, I always find my community. I always find I was always like a lot of people asked if I was gay in prison, and I never hid it because I didn't know really who else to be. But I've always been out since I can remember, and I guess I just always found my community, so to speak, my LGBTQI plus family. It always happens like that, and I guess it always just slots into place, and I have my role or my just sit back or go on a rant, or I always find the people that I need around me or that need me around. So it's I know the ones that need me to shut up a little bit more or that enjoy my rants. So I always I find my place. I always land on my feet.
Mm. I'm enjoying this conversation. I wanted to ask also if there's anything you'd like the general public to know. If you think there's anything that there's tons of misinformation out there and disinformation about what it's really like to go through being incarcerated for any amount of time. So what kind of realities would you like people to know of or to be exposed to and to realize?
I want to say, listen to your mum. No, I don't really. I don't know, and it's one thing that really sticks to me, and that I actually found in jail. And of all things, like I love to read, but still, I'm going to quote Dr. Seuss. He said, "You ought to be thankful a whole heap and lot for the places and for the people and places you're lucky you're not." Yeah, you ought to be thankful a whole heap and lot for the people and places you're lucky you're not. And I think I always had that in my head while I was in jail. I just always thought to myself, it could be worse. There's people dying around the world. There is like people that are being held in detention for nothing, So I just sort of think you should cherish every day that you have with your loved ones, and I don't think you should take your loved ones for granted. Definitely. Yeah.
That's beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. I just can't imagine, having to go through the system with any kind of really handicapping, type of disability, to where you feel like you can't fully just live your own life and just to enjoy your life because you feel all these pressures to be this type of way or to act this type of way and to stay in a line. What was that like for you, and what was that line you kind of had to toe while you were going through it?
I think that it was always like it was always worse for somebody else than me. Like there was always someone worse off, but or that's how I just always saw it. I was always helping someone rather than focusing on me, not just trying to detract away from my problems. I guess in a way, I probably still do that. I was for an example. I worked in the aged care unit for the last 2 years that I was there. I was very lucky to get that job, so I was away from a lot of the population as well. There was a lot of men in there with dementia. There was 26 of them, and they were the most vulnerable and aged in the entire of the prison system in New South Wales. And one gentleman, like his double amputee, was getting his dialysis done 3 times a week, Aboriginal man. I witnessed him get physically beaten, and kicked out of his wheelchair by guards. I've actually just finished going through the court process as a witness for that. I don't know. Things like this just shock me that kind of treatment even it doesn't. I'm not going to sort of say I can't believe that kind of treatment is happening in the Western world. I can't believe that kind of treatment is happening anywhere in the world. Like we're talking about. All I can think of is you should never hit a man with glasses, and it's like you certainly shouldn't kick someone out of their wheelchair. Like it's fucked. Like I know that's fucked. Like it's really just like who are you? What are you doing? And this is honestly this is because the gentleman who was incontinent soiled the bed. Like what? Yeah. So I was there cleaning it. I'm cleaning it because that's what I'm helping him because I was the carer for the 26 of them. Basically, so the guards didn't have to touch them because they treated them like, people with disabilities in prison get poked fun at. Like they get called all of those ableist names that I'm not allowed to, I won't even repeat to give it air. But the kind of things that would that would end careers and all that kind of thing, the kind of names that people from people with disability have been subjected to for many, many years. Like this is what prison guards are in there calling people with a disability. It's like, hang on, aren't you guys supposed to be here to rehabilitate and to help us on our journey back to No, 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 no. They're just it's a great place to really, yeah, it's to be othered.
And even if they're not there, at the very least, I agree they're there to rehabilitate, but at the very least, if you think they're only there to keep you safe, they're not even doing that right now, right? Like they're not even
No,
keeping you
no.
safe at the very least.
They're
No,
locking,
that's
they're locking, they're locking people that have got like intellectual disabilities. They're locking them up in segregation for up to 230 days. And we're talking about, and this is the report. I'll send you guys a copy of this report that was done that I launched with these professors from my university. It's quite amazing. It actually started off in a forensic setting where I think there was I don't. If anyone's listening and sees this, like the numbers might be wrong, but I think it was around 16. They had 16 forensic patients, and in a space of like the 6 months of a researcher from UNSW researching her thesis and the treatment, 9 of them died. So it was really, yeah. So there's so much going on, and it's finding out that like 230 days you're locking like people with like a cognitive disability up in the hole for like 200. So that is like half a day is torture for a person with a cognitive or an intellectual disability. It's excruciating. But 230 days, because they would see behaviours that they're not in control of, or behaviours that they see as problematic. It's not something that they can be like control, number one, or but to be punished for behavioural. It's sick. It's really, and yeah. What comes to mind is Fyodor Dostoevsky that said that you can't judge. You can't judge a government by their upstanding citizens, but you should judge them by how they treat their prisoners. And I really believe that. I really do believe that. It's really true.
absolutely.
Because that's a state of Australian politics.
Yeah, in some cases, the treatment can leave a scar for the rest of someone's life.
It does.
One incident or one
Exactly.
moment, right? Exactly,
Yeah.
and then you're just expected to get out, to walk out when you're done with your time, and just to reintegrate back into society like a normal person after
Yeah.
going through all this life changing trauma. Really, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Agree.
Are there any groups or people that are helping people once they get out, doing the transition work?
Yeah, so like this community restorative centre, which has been like life changing for me. So I had a lived experience of the criminal justice system. My transitional worker, Chris, he's been like my biggest. Well, my husband's been my biggest support, but like professionally, he's been someone that I've just been able to. Everything slides off his back, like and he has lived experience, and as well as that, like there's a new collective that, well, not new. It's formed like over the last couple of years. There's been like the Justice Reform Initiative is it's called Jailing is Failing, and they're getting together and all the research-based evidence they're putting together, like it's huge now because there's so much that's been done over the years on prisons, and they're proving that like it's not helping anyone. So just the fact that that cohort of people is there, and then also it's a lived experience collective that help each other like get employment or seek meaningful jobs or get into university, or we all use our connections to get that person connected to make sure they've got everything that they need. I think that's been like why I'm staying out because it's education is everything, and I think it should be available to everyone, even people that don't read and write, and a lot of people from jail don't read and write, and they should take that away. They should make pre-recordings so you can listen to it, and you should be able to make audio submissions. Fuck writing, like what's it good for? Like we're just missing out on a diversity of voices, like really. We're missing out on so much. Like there's so many people that
Right.
we're missing out on the stories and the diversity of and learning so much more from other people. So I just think education is everything. It's what saved me. It's like it's given me purpose and structure. Yeah, and I can talk about it forever.
I really wish we had more time. I'd love to talk about
Yeah,
this with you forever, really.
that's
And there's so
lovely.
many more topics we could get into.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to start wrapping
yeah, let's do
this
that.
conversation up. But I really appreciate your time. It's been an excellent conversation with you and very enlightening. Hopefully to the listeners as well. Abby, do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I'm so grateful that we were able to connect and you were willing to come on and share. And
Yeah.
it's for as painful as these subjects are, it's it's heartwarming in a way to hear people with lived experience come at these painful topics with such a place of understanding and inclusivity. I mean, you could hear it in your voice that
Right.
that the people who have hurt you are also probably hurting. To be working towards a solution where everyone is getting closer to being healed is incredible, and that it's uplifting to hear you talk. So thank you so much.
It's all about community. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Philip, and thank you to the listeners. Appreciate your time.
Okay, we are off air.